In a quiet little town tucked between green hills and winding cobblestone streets, there stood a small shop filled with ticking sounds. The wooden sign above the door read, "Harold's Clock Shop." Inside worked Harold Bennett, a 50-year-old clockmaker with gentle eyes, silver streaks in his hair, and careful hands that had spent decades repairing the timepieces of others. Every morning, the townspeople would pass his window and see him hunched over tiny gears and springs, adjusting broken clocks so they could tick again. For 30 years, Harold had fixed time for everyone else. But he had never stopped to think about his own. When Harold was young, he dreamed of many things. He wanted to travel the world. He wanted to paint the mountains he saw outside his window. He wanted to learn to play the violin that once belonged to his father. But life had arrived quickly. Bills appeared. Responsibilities grew. His children needed school supplies. The roof needed repairs. So Harold worked. Day after day, year after year. He told himself, maybe someday. One rainy afternoon, an old woman entered the shop carrying a dusty wooden clock. Its hands had stopped completely. Harold carefully opened it, examining the delicate gears inside. After a moment, he smiled. "It's not broken," he said softly. The woman tilted her head. "Then why did it stop?" Harold gently lifted a tiny golden spring. "It's simply tired," he explained. "It's been wound too tightly for too long." The woman chuckled. "Well, give it a rest then." Harold cleaned the gears, loosened the spring, and set the clock by the window. They sat quietly for a moment. Tick, tick, tick. The clock began moving again. Before leaving, the woman looked at Harold thoughtfully.
You know, people are a lot like clocks.
Harold raised an eyebrow.
When you wind yourself too tight for too many years, eventually something stops.
Then she pointed gently at him.
Sometimes what needs fixing isn't the clock.
That night, Harold sat alone in his shop after everyone had gone home. The ticking clocks suddenly sounded louder than usual. Tick, tick, tick. He looked around the room. Every clock had been repaired by his hands. But in the corner sat something covered in dust. His father's old violin. Harold slowly uncovered it. The strings were rusty. The wood had faded. But when he touched it, something stirred inside him like a memory waking up. The next morning, something unusual happened. The sign on Harold's shop window changed. Instead of open 7 days a week, it now read, "Closed on Mondays." On the very first Monday morning, Harold stood outside his shop holding a small backpack. For the first time in 30 years, he wasn't rushing. He walked toward the hills beyond the town. The air smelled fresh. Birds sang above him. And Harold smiled like a man meeting life again for the first time. In the weeks that followed, the town noticed small changes. Harold still fixed clocks, but he laughed more. He closed the shop earlier. Sometimes music floated through the open windows. The old violin had new strings now. And on Mondays, Harold could often be seen walking along the hills, sketching landscapes or simply sitting beneath a tree watching the clouds drift by. One afternoon, a young boy entered the shop holding a broken pocket watch. "Can you fix this?" the boy asked. Harold opened the watch and nodded. "Yes," he said kindly. "But remember something." The boy leaned closer. "Time isn't just something you fix when it breaks," Harold said. "It's something you must enjoy while it's moving." The boy looked confused, but smiled anyway. Years passed. Harold's shop still ticked with life. But Harold himself was no longer wound too tight. He had learned something many people spend their whole lives missing. Sometimes the most important repair is giving yourself permission to live. Lesson: growing older is not the end of living. It's the moment life finally gives you permission to live for yourself. After years of carrying responsibilities for others, true wisdom is learning to care for your own peace, health, and happiness. Because time isn't meant to be spent only working. It's meant to be lived.